Good afternoon and welcome to Perivale Wood. Welcome to another 30 Days Wild broadcast that I'm doing here. And for those who haven't been on some of these before, very briefly about those two places. Perivale Wood is a little bit of ancient woodland here in Greater London. It's been looked after for quite a long time now by an organisation called the Selborne Society and managed as a nature reserve. It's where I spend quite a lot of my time, do a lot of my volunteering and natural history monitoring and surveys and so on. And 30 Days Wild is a little project run by the Wildlife Trust, organised by the Wildlife Trusts here in the United Kingdom. And it's a project that's about encouraging people to get out every day in June, do something to engage with the natural world around them. And as part of that, I'm trying to put some content out, either here on YouTube or on Twitter or somewhere every day as part of that little project. So what we're going to do today, we're going to have a wander around the wood, see if we can find any interesting moths or other wildlife. But I thought we'd do moths partly because I'm interested in them and partly because I've got a couple of interesting survey methods out which we'll have a look at as we go around. But we'll wander around, see what else we can see. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you're not looking at me, you're looking at the more interesting woodland. And you can see, so we're going through here. So, first of all, just out disturbing the vegetation, got on this leaf a species of moth called a treble brown spot, one of the geometrids. It is a species that typically flies by night, but I do quite often find these by day just perched up. Presumably the idea is that that sort of brown stripe with the slightly broken patterns just breaks up the search image a bit, makes it a bit harder for predators to spot that this is a moth and this is something they might want to eat. So this one I noticed a bit earlier, didn't just wander over and spontaneously find it on the video, cheating slightly by having pre-prepared when I'm going to find things. It's a common enough species, one of the Geometridae moths, but rather attractive in its way and fairly distinctive and easy to identify based on that pattern on the wings. So there's a treble brown spot, so we've at least started by finding something. We will then wander through the woods and check something else. Again, this is the thing we're heading towards, one of the survey techniques I have already had a quick glance in, so reasonably confident it will have something to see. But more generally, we'll see what we can find as we go through. See if there's anything else that we spot of wildlife interest. Little blip there as we lost mobile phone signal. Hopefully it wasn't for too long. Nice little group of foxgloves up ahead. So a little clump of them. Quite a good plant for bees, and you can see some bumblebees climbing in and out of the flower here. If we wait here, there we can see one of the bumblebees going in and out of the flowers, and you can probably see some pollen on her pollen baskets there. So rather nice plants. And that bee just going around visiting the various bits, various plants, collecting nectar. Oh, hang on. It's a beetle here, a bee mimicking beetle. Rutpella maculata. I wonder if it'll settle down. No, it's flown off. You may have caught some of that. Oh, it's coming back, hang on. Let's see if it settles. Okay, it's settled on this nettle flower, and this bramble flower. It's on the wrong side, and we'll try and get round without disturbing it. So there we go, this is Rutpella maculata. It's a beetle which mimics the colour patterns of things like bees and wasps. It itself cannot sting, but by using these patterns it makes things that might want to eat it think it might be dangerous. And here it is, just visiting this bramble flower, presumably collecting nectar or pollen. I think that's what these beetles eat as adults. Big long antennae, it's one of the longhorn beetles. Rather attractive. Okay, well, we'll continue on. Further down the path. Stock dove calling there. It's quite a nice sunny day. It's going to be good for looking for insects because they're active and about. And it can be problematic for looking for insects because they're active and so hard to see well. But we'll continue on. And we'll go and have a look at one of the survey techniques I'm using. So you might be able to see hanging in a tree there, if I zoom in, a container with a yellow lid. The yellow I don't think is particularly relevant, it's just the colour the plastic is. And that is a pheromone lure. We're going to go and have a look at it in a minute. It's got in it a little bit of plastic with a synthetic pheromone on it that resembles the chemical produced by females of a moth called the yellow-legged clearwing. And those chemicals are used by the female to signal to males, attract the males to come in and mate. So what we do is we use these synthetic versions as a way of surveying for these creatures. We put them up, put the lures up, the males come to investigate what they think is a female, drop into that container, and that lets us know if the species is present. The pheromones can attract the wrong species, as it were, a species that's not the one that it's specifically targeted for, typically closely related species. And this lure for yellow-legged clearwing here often attracts a related species called the orange-tailed clearwing, and that's certainly what was in there when I glanced at it earlier. There might be some yellow-legged as well. We will go and check in just a minute. So that's what we're going to do. When we go over there, I'm going to have to be faffing around with the container a little bit. So I thought I'd explain it whilst I'm not focused on that. So we'll go over now and we'll have a look and see what we can find in there. So here's the container, and I can already see quite a bit of activity, and you can actually already see the orange tail blush even through the container, which tells me I think all of these that I can see are orange-tailed clearwings. However, we will have a go and see if there's anything else in there. So in order to do that, then we'd have to take the container down. Just bear with me whilst I do that. And I've got a little pot that I'm going to try and use to pot up at least one of these. Several escaping. One sitting straight on my finger. I want to go into the container. Come on. Well, we'll have a look at one in here. There we go, that's an orange-tailed clearwing, which is what we were looking at. So at least 6 of them. They're being very escapey today. So, we will have a proper look at this in just a minute in the pot, but I'm just going to put the chemical away. So that's the little tube of the chemical, or infused with the chemical, the pheromone synthesis. And once you're finished surveying, you always seal these things away so as not to be continuing to attract and disturb the life cycle of the insects whilst you're working on them. I will just leave it here for now, but you can see here in the pot the moth and how it gets its name of orange-tailed clearwing due to that yellowy orange tail and the transparent wings with very few scales on it. So there we go. Rather an attractive species. I will take this back briefly for some photography and then release it later on today. So that was the first of the clearwings we were looking at. I have got another lure out, looking for a different species. We will go and have a look at that just now. It's one I'm less confident of getting. The other lure I've got out is for something called the red-belted clearwing. It's a species associated with apple. And it's actually regarded as a bit more common than the orange tail that we've just had. But I've searched for it on several occasions around some of the apple trees in this site without success. Although I have found it on the site just next door. So I'm not particularly optimistic that this one will have attracted anything. But we will have a look whilst we're here. And then depending on where we are, we might quickly wander into the meadows and see what insects are flying over there. It slightly depends on where some other people are who are also visiting the reserve today and won't want to necessarily be broadcast. Don't immediately see anything. We'll have a quick look. So this is again a similar concept. It doesn't appear to have anything in it, but we'll just quickly take the base off and have a look. No. So this one, as expected, has not attracted any moths. Well, not as expected. So I'll leave that one going for a little while. It's not yet attracted anything, so it's not doing any harm leaving it going. And then we'll quickly wander up here into the meadow and have a quick look in here before finishing. And we'll just see if there's anything else to see flying through the meadows here. There's a bee of some description. And a couple of shield bugs, a couple of tortoise bugs mating here. See if I can get us to focus. There we go. Tortoise shield bugs they're called. A mating pair there. We'll leave them to get on with it. See if anything else is flying around. There's a different type of shield bug here, a slow bug or a hairy shield bug. Quite attractively coloured, really. There are quite a few insects in here if you get your eyes down and start looking. Wander a little bit further up to this area. There's something flying. What's that? Yes, I think that's going to be a Burnet companion moth. So perhaps we'll end here with this Burnet companion visiting the buttercups, since it's at least a moth, which is what we said we'd end on. We've seen a few things. There's quite a lot of these Burnet companions around here in the meadows, so that's as good a place as any to end. And I'll be back tomorrow somewhere for the next day of 30 Days Wild. There we go.